Spring break is finally here, and whether you're cruising to the Bahamas, skiing the Alps, or hitting the nearest beach, it's important to prioritize your safety. We want to remind everyone sexual assault can happen at any time, anywhere, including spring break. Jamie Ferrell, Director of Forensic Nursing at Memorial Hermann, is here to chat with us this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
We do appreciate it. You know, oftentimes when we're having a good time, we loosen our guard a little bit. We let our guard down, and safety kind of slips away. But we have to remain vigilant. Safety is priority.
Yes. Both young men and women participate in spring break, let off steam.
Yeah.
Alcohol consumption becomes a part of that, and that increases vulnerability. And what's important is that you go with your friends, you stay with your friends, have a designated decider for 24 hours
that's
going to be sober and alert.
I like that.
And sync your phones so that if someone gets lost, they can be found and tracked.
Yeah.
And that aspect of don't let someone else fix your drink.
Yeah.
Intuition is your guide.
Yeah.
And listen to that intuition and do a safe phrase. So practice that. Like red moon. If I'm in an environment I don't feel comfortable with, I need to just blurt that out, and everyone around me will know there's something not right. Don't leave me. Don't let me wander off. So those communication pieces are important.
It's so interesting. I was driving into work yesterday morning, and my mother called, and she was sort of alarmed at a report she saw, and she said, you know, I think as a family we have to come up with a safety word. And I'm like, Mom, where are you getting this? And she said, you know, I was watching this report on the news about spring break, and with the amount of traveling that you and your brother and I do, we need to come up with a family word in the event something happens. We all are on the same page. And so she came up with some word. We're not going to say it on live television, but I think that type of planning is important. It might sound silly in the moment, but it's really critical to have in the event something happens.
Yes, it's so important. And we want individuals to know and families to know that if there's a concern of sexual assault, the health of the person is the priority. They need to come to healthcare. At Memorial Hermann, we have the specialist, a forensic nurse that will come and see them. 18 years of age and older, they can decide not to participate in law enforcement because that's scary, but if they find the courage to come in, we want to provide them trauma-informed, compassionate care, no judgment, no blame. Let us care for your health, because considering HIV exposure, sexually transmitted infection, we have 3 days to get those medicines on board. So even though we have 5 days for evidence collection, we can preserve that without law enforcement being involved. It can be saved, and for 5 years they have the time to decide, do they want to report? But that gives them time to start counseling, get strong. But their health has 3 days. 3 days. So we've got this disparity of time, 3 days, 5 days. The sooner they know something has happened, the sooner we want them to come in so we can take care of their health. That's the priority for them physically, emotionally, psychologically. We want them to begin to have hope and healing after something devastating has happened.
And I know that can be extremely traumatic, but taking those steps to ensure if you do in fact decide to take the next step in reporting these crimes, at least this is handled, this has been taken care of. What type of, I know that's just one component, but when people do have the courage to come forward and report sexual assault, what should be their first step in doing that? I know, you know, oftentimes we say, you have to look beyond that nuclear environment, but help does exist. And so if they come to you, if they're coming here, talk us through what transpires from that point on. Is it an exam? Is there counseling? Elaborate on that a little bit.
So for us at Memorial Hermann, we collaborate with our rape crisis centers within the community. So it's not that we look at them in a silo. We know that they have all of these needs, and so we begin to let the patient decide how much or how little they want in that moment. So they are really the driver. It's not that anyone is doing something to them, but we are partnering with them to say, here are your options. So they check in to the emergency department. We come in, we begin to take care of them, look at them all over, see if there's any injury. We have conversation with them. The physician is also a part of that team of care for the patient, and addressing their emotional and psychological place of where they're at. Are they healthy? Are they strong? Do they want someone with them? Do they want to just be in private? It's all about their decisions at the time, so we want them to feel empowered through the process. We'll do that assessment, looking all over their body for any injury, but also collecting and preserving any evidence that is there so that they can decide, do they want to move forward with partnering with the criminal justice system? But that way they have time to make those decisions. So they can make that decision right away, or they can delay that decision if they're not ready to. But the most important thing is when someone reaches out and says, I'm concerned, I think this has happened to me, is that the person listening believes them. Believes them and helps with that next step of saying, let's take you to the hospital. Let's take you to the hospital.
It's heartbreaking. You know, I know the past several weeks we've been talking about the 264,000 cases suspended essentially with HPD because of, quote, a lack of personnel. And when we look at that and know that some 4,000, 6,000 of those cases are sexual assault cases, you know, you think about those survivors that they somehow found the courage to come forward and those cases are suspended. That's heartbreaking, but it's to ensure them that they know that there is help, there is resources available. When we talk about being empathetic and sensitive, letting them know that there is no level of embarrassment. So often we talk to survivors and there's so many emotions, and just letting them know that help is available and they can move forward with that process is a big deal.
Absolutely. At no time does anyone have the right to sexually assault you. Men, women, or children. And to come in, let us care for them and do their evidence collection. It doesn't matter about suspension. That evidence is there and is preserved forever.
I think a lot of people needed to hear this conversation this morning and hear your voice. And so we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming in, Jamie. Thank you.
Zach, thank you.
Absolutely.